Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Paul, joined by Robert Ziggy Ziegler up at Harvard University for a Tuesday show, Ziggy. We haven't had a Tuesday show come out in quite some time on this channel. We're back, baby.
Have we ever had a Tuesday show?
Well, we used to record on Monday last year for a Tuesday release, but I'm saying like a Tuesday released show hasn't come out.
I don't think we've ever done a Tuesday record, Tuesday release.
No, probably not. Unless there may have been some breaking news at some point that came out. Like I'd imagine over the course of the channel's history, and I mean, how many videos have we put out at this point now? Like, I think you can go
hundreds.
We've had 1.4 thousand videos come out. That is crazy, man. 1.4 thousand videos have come out. That includes shorts and breakouts. It's not like 1,000 full episodes, but that's a lot of content. So I have to imagine somewhere in there we recorded on a Tuesday and released on a Tuesday. But as far as this season goes, this is a first. And we thought this would be a fun one because it's a great time for overreactions and underreactions to the NFL, which I think almost always is a good time, actually. But right now,
like in week one, basically everything is an overreaction.
Yes.
Now we're more than halfway through the season. You have some idea of what's going on. I think now you can actually assess, is this for real or not?
Yeah. And you start looking at the playoff picture and suddenly it starts to come a little bit into focus. There's a lot of football left to play here. But around this time of year now, we're approaching mid-November. And really Thanksgiving to me is, that's when it kicks into extra gear. This is when we start to learn who the contenders are and who the pretenders are that are going to drop off. And it's a fun season because, you have teams like the 8-2 Colts, the 8-2 Broncos, the 8-2 Patriots, all of whom lead their division right now, but are being chased by, the Broncos and Patriots at least, being chased by, the powerhouses in the conference, or the typical powerhouses in the Chiefs and the Bills. And the Ravens are right on the Steelers' heels. The Packers had a big loss last night. They're the 7 seed now. You blink your eye. After being the 1 seed, they dropped down to the 7 at 5-3-1. Behind the Chicago Bears, who are now up to the 6 and tied with the Lions. It's the Rams and the Seahawks are both 7-2. They play this weekend. I mean, there's so much going on in the league. And one of the great things of the parity this year that we've seen across the league is that the next month and a half, like who knows what's going to happen. So we're going to dive in to some overreactions, underreactions following week 10. If you're enjoying the channel, please help us. Please help us get to 27,000. We're at 26,950 right now. And you typically after Packer losses, we just start bleeding subs. We actually did an okay holding on this time. I thought we were going to be on life support, but we're okay as a channel. If you're enjoying the content, please like, comment, and subscribe to the show. We're going to continue to put out a lot of content over the next 2 months because this is the time of year. If you don't do it now, you're not going to do it. So Ziggy, Tuesday morning show, overreaction, underreaction. Let's start with the I also just want to quickly shout out 2 people left in the Survivor pool, the Eliminator Challenge. Flopazoid and Green Bay. We had 4 people eliminated, including our good buddy Aiden on the Panthers' loss to the Saints.
In case you thought it was rigged, it is not rigged.
Yeah, can't trust the Saints. And Stuckman, who picked the Bills to beat the Dolphins, which you thought would have been safe, but that was not. In the pick'em pool, Big Dilly Style holds on to his lead at 105-43 on the year. 1 game up, still on the Richter. So that chase continues as well, like many others around the National Football League. Let's start, though, now, Ziggy. With last night, the Eagles beat the Packers 10-7, one of the ugliest games of the year. Really one of the uglier games you'll watch of professional football. It was the first 0-0 game at halftime, I believe, since 2009 on Monday Night Football. The Ravens and Browns.
Like an Iowa Northwestern football game. Not like this year's Iowa, like a few years ago Iowa.
Yeah, and the ending was exciting. The fourth quarter was a lot of fun. But the first 3 quarters of this, kind of just a slugfest. And you're like, all right, let's get some points on the board here. For those who like defense, I guess you were having a great night. But I like
not
seeing...
true, though. I like defense. The problem was it's not that the defenses were playing lights out. The offenses were just putrid this game.
It was just bad. And the Eagles wind up winning by 3 points. The Packers have a couple opportunities late to get down and kick a game-tying field goal. Can't quite get there. But as I said off the top of the show, you blink your eyes now, and the Packers are at the 7th seed at 5-3-1. And the 49ers are right here at 6-4. Green Bay's third in their own division. They have a game with the Giants in MetLife coming up, followed by hosting the Vikings before their Thanksgiving clash with the Lions. And after that, their schedule picks up quite a bit. So what I'm going to ask you, Ziggy, we talked about last night, overreaction, underreaction. The Packers will miss the playoffs.
I think that can't be anything but an overreaction. And I understand why Packers fans are freaking out. There's a few reasons I think the Packers will continue to make the playoffs. One is one of the teams ahead of them, as you mentioned off the top, is the Chicago Bears. We'll get there a little bit later, but I am not convinced that when we reach week 18, the Chicago Bears, who still have to play Green Bay twice, are going to be ahead of them. More significantly, too, all the teams in the NFC West, like the Rams and the Seahawks, still have to play each other twice. There's a lot of opportunity for cannibalism there. And the Packers have shown they're an inconsistent team, but they're also a good team. They have a lot of talent. They have plenty of winnable games coming up. And even though they haven't done a good job winning their winnable games up until this point, a lot of people are acting. You're going to see in power rankings, the Packers dropping out of the top 10. You're going to hear people saying that Jordan Love can't get it done, that this team's no good. The way they got there was tough, and there's huge problems that this team needs to deal with. But losing to the Eagles by 3 at home for a team that's well over 500 is not enough to send me on the doom spiral for the Green Bay Packers. They have things to work on, but there is plenty of talent on the team. Missing the playoffs is excessive, even if I think missing the division or not hosting games looks a lot more realistic than it did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, this is an overreaction to me, but it's not out of the picture. And it's something that, like, if you told me that a couple weeks ago, I would have said unfathomable when they were 5-1-1 with the Panthers coming up on the slate. That felt like, there's no way this team. Is it more likely the Packers win the conference or win the 1 seed or miss the playoffs? I would have said the 1 seed for sure. And part of the reason it's not out of the picture is that they've shown they can lose to anybody. And at this point in time, even with the defense playing really well, I think can we agree on that right now? The Packers defense is playing really well after a little bit of concerns earlier in the season.
The defense has been lights out for almost the entire year.
Other than forcing takeaways, which they've now done in 4 straight games, they just haven't generated a ton of turnovers.
The Packers defense has had 1 bad game this year against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they've been excellent.
And it may have even felt like they were worse than they were because of just the way they were losing a couple games, right? With the Browns having a drive to win the game, essentially, and the Bengals getting hot in the second half. Like the Packers defense hasn't been great on the season because there have been moments like sort of like the Packers as a whole, just inconsistencies. But lately, they've really turned it on. And you hold Philly to 10 points. I mean, that's an explosive offense there. I know they've struggled at times, but so many playmakers, and Philly really couldn't do anything the entire night. The problem with Green Bay, though, is you have no faith in the offense right now, which is shocking because it's the same team that went to Pittsburgh and scored 21 points in the fourth quarter to rout the Steelers, basically, on Sunday Night Football. But beyond just being concerned about the offense, now Elton Jenkins fractured his lower leg last night. Sean Ryan's going to come in. And I think he'll be serviceable. Elton wasn't playing that well, but that whole offensive line. We were listening to Andy Herman last night. I saw you in Andy's comment section, Ziggy, getting some love from fans, trying to convert you over to Packer fandom.
They picked a bad night for that.
Yeah, of all the nights to try and convince you to become a Packer fan, last night was not the one. But their offensive line has been piss poor. And Andy made it a point they can't run on anybody right now. If you can't run on anybody, the teams are just throwing their safeties back and saying, all right, well, beat us. And they can't right now. So you have Jenkins out. You have Matthew Golden missed last night. Jaden Reed still not back. Maybe Thanksgiving was what we saw. Romeo Dobbs left with a chest injury, didn't return, even though I'm assuming that wasn't too severe. Tucker Kraft, all we all know, is out for the season. Who did you say? You said someone else. Who else was out? Sorry, as your mid.
Marshawn Lloyd is out.
Yeah, Marshawn Lloyd is out.
On the defense, Lucas Van Ness hasn't been playing.
Yep, and his injury, LaFleur was talking about that, saying it's wound up being worse than they expected, and who knows when he'll be back at this point. So
I have to say, in general, Green Bay this year has done a really bad job knowing when players are hurt, when they can play, when they can't play. Like, this has been a theme for the Green Bay Packers for multiple years now. The medical staff is yet another huge problem for Green Bay.
Yeah, and I'm never going to rejoice. Like, as a Viking fan, Packer misery is something that's, I guess that we do get a decent dose of it as Vikings fans. But I'm never happy about injuries, and this team is severely impacted right now by it. So I'd say missing the playoffs is an overreaction. But at this point in time, if you put a gun to my head and said, "Will the Packers win the NFC North?" I'd say no, because the Lions show that they can turn it on and beat bad teams consistently. That they had a clunker against the Vikings, but they bounced back the way you're supposed to bounce back, and they destroy the Commanders. And the Lions often show up in big spots. The Packers have had a lot of slow starts. We mentioned they haven't scored more than 7 points in the first half in over a month. And you get into playoff football, and if you go on the road, it's hard to see Green Bay going and winning games. I mean, right now, their path to the Super Bowl, Ziggy, would be going to Seattle, which is a winnable game. But if they win that, then they go to Philly. And if they win that, they probably go to Detroit, you'd have to imagine. Or you're going to, LA to play the Rams. It's like they're not winning those 3 games, especially the way they look right now. So miss the playoffs? Yeah, a bit of an overreaction, not out of the picture. But go to the Super Bowl? The Packers will go to the Super Bowl? Right now, I think you can't argue that they will at all until something changes.
I mean, if you look at the last time the Green Bay Packers won a Super Bowl, though, it was going on the road, going to play Mike Vick and the Philadelphia Eagles, going to play the 1 seed Matt Ryan Atlanta Falcons, going to play Chicago, who'd beaten them Week 18 in an important game, and then playing Pittsburgh. Like, the Packers have won Super Bowls with difficult road schedules before when they have talent.
And they do have talent.
Say the Super Bowl is out of the question.
No, I wouldn't say it's out of the question. I just say right now it's blurry. It's hard to see it right now. You really need to squint. But the one form of optimism, and I said this last night, Green Bay is a team with really high peaks, really low valleys. Right now, you're in that low valley. And we've been there a couple times this year talking about the Packers. The other side of that is when this team is hot, they're as good as anybody in football. And if Jordan Love gets going, he's clearly a rhythm passer, right? When Jordan's off, he's off. But when he's on, he's as hot as anybody in football. Start getting a couple of those guys back who have been out or who have at least been banged up. And if this team, a la 2023, can find rhythm at the right time, now it's watch out. Now it's okay. All of a sudden, those road games, the Packers are the team to be feared. That's very possible to happen. Just right now, I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it starts with Matt LaFleur being a hell of a lot better on the sideline. Bad coaching nearly cost them the game in Dallas. It cost them a win. And here we are now, where last night they had that 4th and 1, and you have Eagles players yelling out the play on the defensive line. Like, can't happen. Can't have a play that bland with, in some sense, the 1 seed on the line, right? It's not over, but this loss certainly hurts that.
You're plus 3,000 now. It's over.
Yeah. And your play is an inside handoff to Josh Jacobs, which you've run every single game that you run up to the line and hurry up in short yardage. Can't happen. You said Sirianni's like, yeah, we knew that was coming. and they blew it up. So we'll see what happens. A lot of things need to be worked out in Green Bay. Number 2, the Bears, Ziggy, will make the playoffs. The 6-3, second place in the NFC North, Chicago Bears will make the playoffs. Overreaction, underreaction.
It feels tough to run these back to back because this is not going to help with the allegations that all we do is say good things about the Packers and bad things about the Bears.
Well, I mean, I thought I just kind of ripped Green Bay right there.
Yeah, but fans aren't going to remember that. They're going to remember me saying that Green Bay is going to make the playoffs and Chicago is not. But it's true. That is an overreaction. This is the most exciting Bears season we've seen since 2018. The Bears are winning games that they probably shouldn't be winning. The offense is clicking on a different level than we've seen before. They're well coached. They're in very competitive games. The problem when you're projecting them to make the playoffs is who are they in these very competitive games with? They beat the Raiders by 1 point. They beat the Commanders by 1 point. I know Jaden Daniels was in that game, but the Commanders are not a great team. They beat the Saints off the back of 3 Spencer Rattler interceptions. That ended his NFL career. They beat the Bengals. The Bengals were lucky to get an onside kick, but they needed heroics to win that. They beat the Jaxson Dartless Giants by 4. They were losing that game until Russell Wilson comes in and looks bad. And you look at the rest of the season, you've got to head to Philly. You have to play Green Bay twice. You host the Lions, who beat the brakes off you in Detroit. There's only a couple games left that look winnable to me. Maybe you can beat Pittsburgh at home. Maybe you can beat the Vikings in Minnesota. Maybe you can beat the Browns. But I think that the Bears are going to lose a lot of momentum and not make the playoffs. And that's okay. The goal of this season for Chicago was not to make the playoffs. It's easy once you're 5-3, 6-3 to think that way. But the Bears front office knows this. They didn't make any big trade acquisitions because this is not their year. This was a year for changing the culture, getting Caleb Williams to play mistake-free, competent football, and for the team to finally get over this rebuild and start being competitive. And the fact that the Bears have gotten there in 1 year is a huge accomplishment. But they're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
they will play games that they need to win to get to the playoffs in December, which is new for Chicago Bears fans. But they're not going to win those games.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, the game this weekend against the Vikings is truly a must-win to me. Because when I'm looking ahead at predicting out this season, I have the Bears just outside of the 49ers, and maybe it'll come down to that game. The Bears go to San Francisco in week 17 in what will just be a massive, massive playoff implications game. And I currently have the 49ers just edging them out for that last spot in the NFC. But this week, going to Minnesota, I mean, gives the Vikings a chance to kind of get back in the picture too, amazingly. Like somehow we're not truly out of it, even though it feels that way. But after that, you've still got games. Hard to see them winning at Philly. Don't expect them to win in Green Bay. They host the Lions the last week of the year, but Detroit has been unkind to Chicago is a nice way of putting it. So these games where you host the Browns, you're at the Vikings, you host the Steelers, you host the Packers, you win those 4, you get to 10 wins, and you have the shot.
That's enough.
That's enough. That'll do it. Be at Minnesota, hosting Pittsburgh, hosting the Browns, hosting the Packers. 3 of them at home. And then I guess your fallback is at San Francisco. So
if they win 4 of those 5, they'll be good. And there's a chance. The Lions are a terrible team to draw week 18 because the Lions could be locked into a 1 seed. But I just get the feeling that even if the Lions are guaranteed the 1 seed, if they have a chance to play Chicago in Chicago for a chance to knock the Bears out of the playoffs, the starters are coming out.
For a little bit. I don't think Campbell would roll them out for the entire game. Especially given...
Here's this thing. I don't know what Dan Campbell would do.
Well, it would be dumb of Campbell
to confidently say Dan Campbell is going to give up on winning a football game.
After what happened last year, I would be stunned, blown away if he played them for more than a quarter. I don't think he'd play him. I think the Lions are too smart.
That puts Bears fans in a really funny spot where you should be hoping your best chance of making the playoffs is the Detroit Lions dominate the rest of the season and lock up the 1 seed.
You're probably right.
If that game becomes winnable, right? If you're going to get a chance to play the Lions backups and make the playoffs there, suddenly this schedule, you just have to win 3 of those 5 games that we just mentioned. And I think that's very doable.
Yes, it's an amazing, that would be an amazing turn of events. And if I'm a Bears fan, that path is probably the best one to getting in. But there has to be a large piece of that's going like, I want to win the division. Like I want to go for this, even if that's more unrealistic. It's just
if the Bears win the division, they're back.
Oh, 100%. Well, this is right now to me, without a doubt, the most optimistic the Bears franchise as a whole has been. Like not just for one season. I mean, moving forward in my lifetime. Like I'm looking through right now their seasons. And I remember like one of the first Super Bowls I remember is 2006 when they lost to the Colts. And I mean, right here it says they were second in the league in points that year. I remember that, the defense was great with Urlacher and Briggs and those dudes. But, you had Rex Grossman at quarterback. And then you look at the other teams that were, playoff caliber, double-digit win teams. The Trubisky year in 2018, they're 12-4. No one who actually was processing what was on the field thought that team was sustainable on offense. Great defense. Again, Chicago normally is a very good defense. But in the league,
but you're not going to lead the NFL in takeaways by like 10 every single year.
Yeah, even 2010, the conference championship game, they win the North that year. They're hosting Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Yes, Jay Cutler got hurt in that game, but I'll never forget. That's an 11-5 team finds their way to the conference championship. And I remember on conference championship Sunday, Ziggy, my 6th grade travel basketball team lost the championship game by like 30 points. And we had a pretty good idea we were going to lose that. And I was much more confident that the Bears would lose to the Packers on that day because I had no idea how they were able to get to the NFC chip. But right now, the infrastructure's in place for a really solid offensive foundation moving forward. And the defense, Chicago's good at defense. I think they're going to continue to improve that spot as well. Hopefully, get more edge rushers at the draft this year and cornerbacks as well. So if you're a Bears fan,
just being healthy next year on defense, the other thing Bears fans can look forward to is we don't know exactly when players will be back, but if your secondary is healthy at the start of December rather than the middle, like having Gordon and Johnson back would make such a difference for this defense.
No, I mean, I guess there's a little asterisk here. If the Lions rest their starters, the Bears will make the playoffs. If they don't, I think they come up just short. But, there's no game here that I look at other than at Philly. And even then, I mean, they can win any of these games.
I'm sorry. The Bears are not going into Green Bay and winning. I will even give you talking about at Philly. The Chicago Bears are not going into Green Bay and winning.
To me, that's totally on the table. They did it last year. They went in and won last year. And yes, Jordan Love got hurt, but I know not with the way Green Bay's playing right now. Do I think the Bears are going to make the playoffs? It seems like I do. I'm going to say it's still a slight overreaction, but I like it. It's on. The playoff hunt is on, and frankly, the division hunt is on in Chicago, and that's pretty exciting. Okay, third, we didn't talk about this yesterday. Kind of had the urge to put out a reaction on this. Brian Daboll. Firing Brian Daboll will hurt Jaxson Dart long term. Overreaction.
You opened this one up, Paul. I've opened up the other two.
Well, I was reading the comment from their co-owners, John Mara and Steve Tisch. The past few seasons have been nothing short of disappointing, and we have not met our expectations for this franchise. And we have a lot of Giants friends, especially living here in North Jersey, who are reacting to this. And I saw a lot of national media came out and immediately was like, "Bad move, Giants!" Stunned that they did this. And my instant reaction was like, about damn time. Are you kidding me? Like, what? Brian Daboll is someone who clearly knows the X's and O's of football, but just because you know the X's and O's of football doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a good leader. And just because you're not a good leader now, it doesn't mean you can't be a good leader down the road or a good head coach elsewhere. I don't think Brian Daboll is a bad person. I don't know Brian Daboll. But I think his time in New York had run out.
His time in New York began with him driving off half his coaching staff.
Yeah, and look, the start was amazing, right? Winning Coach of the Year, that Daniel Jones-led team. Like, the team now, I think, has more talent than the team that went to the playoffs. I actually believe that. I think Jaxson Dart
crushed the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs.
Yeah, people fail to realize this, and maybe it won't be, but this is possibly the last time I'll say this. That Giants team, I'm just going to pull up the numbers on Daniel Jones in 2022. That Giants team was 9-7-1, I believe, and went in as a wild card, the 6th seed, and beat the Vikings, who were the 3 seed that year. The 13-4 3-seed Vikings. Somehow we, can't seem to draw a good seed when we have 13 plus wins. It's unbelievable. But Daniel Jones that season, Ziggy, in 2022, the year that he broke out and got the $40 million year contract, 4 years, $160 million. Daniel Jones's stats that year were this. I'm going to read out his yards per game, or his yards. 188, 176, 196, 71, 217, 173, 202, 176, 197, 341 against the Detroit Lions, who had the 32nd ranked passing defense that year. 228, 200, 169, 160, 334 against the Minnesota Vikings defense, the 31st ranked passing defense that year. One of the worst passing defenses you'll ever see. 177 against the Colts, 301, 2 touchdowns, no picks against the Minnesota Vikings, the worst passing defense in football.
By the way, this is a man who had thrown 15 passing touchdowns all year.
And 135 in the playoff loss to the Eagles. 3 games, over 300 yards. Only one other game over 210. Over 220. 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. It wasn't a crazy year for Daniel Jones. It was a crazy year because he was much better than he had been. Not because he was really good. Saquon Barkley was amazing. And, the defense could get the job done. There was no one to throw to. Yes, there were a lot of problems in New York. I agree that Daniel Jones was dealt a poor hand in all the coaching changes. And, bringing Daboll in was supposed to be consistency. But Daniel Jones, guys, even with the way he's playing with the Colts right now, he's a solid quarterback. He's someone that when he's not making mistakes can get the job done. He's not elevating franchises right now. I don't think that yes, in some sense, he's elevated the Colts, but I think he's just doing enough for them to win at this point in time. And we'll see come playoffs, will he be able in the big moments to get the ball downfield? Ziggy, I don't think you believe that. I think he can, but you're not confident.
Also, yeah. This isn't the Daniel Jones segment. So
I'm sorry. Let me get back on track here. Since that year, Brian Daboll is 11-33. He's 5-17-1 against the NFC East. They're 3-19 in their last 22 games. He's impulsive. He throws tantrums on the sideline. He, has been reported to be difficult to work with. Wink Martindale walked out. The defense has sucked since then. And he frequently puts their prized possession, Jaxson Dart, in harm's way. And again, I don't think Brian Daboll is a bad person. Can't go.
But he was reckless.
You can't go sticking your head in the medical tent trying to force someone who's being evaluated for a concussion back in the game. Jaxson Dart has been evaluated 4 times for a concussion. 4 times this year. You have to be more careful. And you look at the collective here. It's losing. It's bad attitude, bad culture, recklessness with your players, no accountability for people, and you deserve to be fired, even if you know the X's and O's as well as anybody. You'll go be a coordinator somewhere and then get your chance again. And I hope Brian Daboll does well. But it was time for this to happen. And as far as will this hurt Jaxson Dart? maybe this week, maybe for the rest of the year. But to me, it's the perfect timing because he's like this Giants team is finding its core. A lot of young, really talented players. Now it's about nailing the head coach here. And if you do that this time, everything will be fine. I think it's the perfect time for them to do this.
Well, I'll tell you, this will hurt Jaxson Dart less than continuing to play for Brian Daboll.
Probably quite literally.
What we've seen, I've been sort of baffled by the reaction. One major media personality who will go unnamed said that this was the New York Giants firing the best coach on their team. Another media personality, Dan Orlovsky, said there was something really special between Daboll and Dart, and you don't break up special connections between a coach and a quarterback. I'm wondering if like Brian Daboll's agent is really well connected. Like if you actually watch what happened with the Giants, even this year, this did not look like a team that was well coached. I will say the thing that utterly baffles me, you've talked about all the failures that this team has had, the bad contracts they've handed out, the bad coaching, the bad roster construction. I do not understand, and the Giants love to do this, why Joe Schoen is going to choose the next head coach for the New York Football Giants. He has a winning percentage barely above 33%. He's completely failed to give them a roster, right? Like it's...
Yeah, Ziggy, you miss on Evan Neal in the first round. You miss on Deonte Banks, which is a trigger name for Giants fans, I've heard. Jalen Hyatt hasn't developed. And then you let go. You let Saquon go, you let Xavier McKinney go, you let Leonard Williams go, you let Julian Love go. They all, and it's still a bad look that Daniel Jones is also playing the best football of his career after leaving the Giants. All these guys leave, right? Some of them we know are super talented, but even Saquon, he runs for 2,500 yards last season, the first year out, and Shane. Look, when we saw Joe Schoen at Cava. A couple years ago, our buddy Will said, "Hey, love what you're doing with the team." That was after they beat the Vikings.
And I'll say this, Joe Schoen has managed to get talent in the building. But you know who else managed to get an all-pro left tackle, an all-pro defensive tackle, another Pro Bowler defensive tackle, an all-pro cornerback, an all-pro safety, another Pro Bowl safety? Dave Gettleman. Getting all-pros and Pro Bowl caliber players does not mean that you get to keep your job if you can't build a roster that can win games.
No,
it's nice. He drafted a quarterback whose team can lead the NFL in scoring. Nobody cares.
Yeah, they've just lost too much. They've lost too much, and I truly think the culture there was bad in New York. I'm not in the building. I can't confirm that. But you watch the Giants and you watch how they carry themselves. That does not seem like it just doesn't really seem like a tight locker room. And they blew a lot of games this year too. The Denver game cannot happen. So I don't think this is a bad spot. I'd imagine right now, if I had a gun to my head, Mike McCarthy would be my guess. Comes into New York, which Giants fans won't like. But Mike McCarthy, 5 years in Dallas, the 3 years Dak was healthy, they go 12-5. It feels like he might be. We can talk more about this later. We'll get on to the next one because we're on a little bit of a time crunch. But Mike McCarthy feels like he might be the hire after they've tried a lot of first-time head coaches. Maybe this is the time now that they go back to an experienced coach.
If you're the GM coaching for your job, you want to hire whoever will win you the most games so you don't get fired. Yeah. It's just a disaster.
The Patriots will win the AFC's 1 seed.
Not an overreaction. It's going to happen.
Okay. All right. Let's hear this.
Lead pipe lock, in the words of Andy Herman. You can put it in right now. After going to Tampa Bay and beating the Buccaneers in what was a very good performance for the team overall, I'm just going to read you their games. And we're late enough in the season, you have some idea who these games are. You got 2 games against the Jets. You go to Cincinnati. Hopefully for them, Joe Burrow will be out for that game. We will see. But that feels like an aggressive return. I think he's back for Thanksgiving. You host the Giants, perhaps without Jaxson Dart. You host the Bills, who you beat in Buffalo. You go to Baltimore. Tough game. But other than that, if they just beat the Jets twice, the Bengals, the Giants, and the Patriots, all bottom dwellers.
Wait, who was the last one? Who was the last one? Sorry.
And the Dolphins. If they can win those games, I know I said the Patriots, I meant the Dolphins. Okay. If they can just win those games against some of the worst teams in the NFL, they can drop Buffalo and drop Baltimore, and it doesn't matter. You compare that to the path that the Colts have. The Colts go to Kansas City this week. They have to go to Seattle. They play the Texans twice. They play the Jaguars twice. They host the 49ers. I think combined, the Jaguars and Texans are better than the Dolphins and Jets. I think that going to Kansas City and going to Seattle is brutal. The Patriots are in an exceptional spot to get the 1 seed. There's a reason they're the favorite in Vegas. They've got the quarterback. They've got the defense. And they just won one of the hardest games left on their slate. I do not see a world where a team other than the New England Patriots are the 1 seed, which is ridiculous to say, given how expectations started.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity is right in front of them. The game hosting Buffalo is the one to circle for me right now. And I know you said it won't matter if they win those other games.
If they can win that, it's completely.
But that's the one where if they win that, you have to really like their position. I will say this, and people are going to be mad that I say this. People are going to be really mad when I say this. Just be a little bit careful of the Chiefs running the table. Just
if the Chiefs run the table, they do not get the 1 seed.
They might. I'm not. They might have the tiebreaker over New England if they ran the table. And I'm just saying, they're at Denver. It probably won't happen, but at Denver, hosting the Colts, at the Cowboys, host the Texans, host the Chargers, at the Titans, host the Broncos, at the Raiders. They're going to be favored in all of those games except at Denver. And the Chiefs have not been consistently good enough this year where it's you would expect them to win out. But I'm just saying,
Denver's got a better chance at the 1 seed than Case.
I'm just saying if they win in Denver next week, which Denver can easily win. And I mean, that is a massive, massive game. Like Denver probably wins the AFC West if they win that game. And if they lose, I think the Chiefs do. But if the Chiefs win that game, just keep an eye on them. That's all I'm saying.
I'll tell you, the Chargers have a better chance of getting the 1 seed than the Chiefs.
Look, I'm just telling you right now, be careful of it. If they win in Denver this week, it's on. As far as the Colts or the Patriots, yeah, I lean.
That's the race.
I lean New England there. So I'd say no, not an overreaction. Amazingly, but that Buffalo game is a big one because this weekend did a lot with New England for me, winning in Tampa Bay. And maybe it shouldn't have because we've already seen them win in Buffalo, but this was another, if we're playing like college football, this was another quality win right here. And I think it's one that helped New England believe a lot too. It's at least the fans of, okay, like, yeah, we are on that competitive level right now.
We can do more than beat the Saints, Titans, Browns, and Falcons.
Which is an accomplishment in itself this year because a lot of teams are struggling against some of the really bad teams in football.
Yeah. The Carolina Panthers went to New England and New England won by 29.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills.
Not every team beats the Carolina Panthers at home.
Yeah, the Bills lost to the Falcons, right? The Bills didn't look good in that game at all. I mean, it's happened this year across the board. The Bills just got blown out by Miami. Last one. The Lions are the team to beat in the NFC.
See, this is a funny week to ask that question because I'm inclined to say yes, but how am I supposed to pick against a team that just went into Green Bay and won?
Because they didn't look good doing it. The Eagles.
I mean, you can say they didn't look good doing it, but
that's not about where I go.
How did the Lions look going into Green Bay? And
that was week football? 1. That was week 1.
Look, man, if you look at the common games, Philadelphia's winning, Detroit's losing.
Yeah.
No, I'm not being serious.
Oh, okay. I was like, where are we going with this?
Look, I do not think there is a huge gap between Detroit and Philly. I think both these teams are good. Philly struggled a lot last night, but they got it done. But the way the Lions are winning these games, I know that their game in KC looked tough. I know their game in Green Bay looked tough. And we will find out who the team to beat is this week when the Lions go to Philadelphia. But given the way that the season has played out, the Lions have been more consistent than the Eagles. I like their offense a lot more than the Eagles. The Eagles' offensive play calling, they're not going to get flack for this because they won the game. it was arguably worse than Green Bay's yesterday. Like some completely baffling decisions that they got away with. You can always count on Detroit to make intelligent choices and play their best football. And this year in the NFL, what's the theme? The theme is consistency. Can you win all the games you're supposed to win? When you're up against a tough team, can you show up? And I think the answer to that for Detroit is yes. So because of the consistency they've shown, I'm willing to say it's not an overreaction on Detroit. But it doesn't feel like last year, where for most of the season, we were talking about them as a team a tier above everyone else. I think they're the 1A to Philly's 1B.
The 1B to Philly's 1A?
No. The Lions are the team to beat.
Oh, okay. I cannot believe you didn't say the Rams or Seahawks.
Yeah,
like even mentioned their name. I don't think Philly's on the top tier of contenders in the NFC right now. I think that tier are the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Lions. And then I drop down to Philly. Philly's not even, I mean, yeah, they have to be on the radar as the defending champions and how talented that roster is, but they have not played good football this year. So I get where you're coming from in that they have the ability to turn it on. But right now, I haven't seen it for a while. So I'm going to say the Lions are just behind the Rams at this point in time because Matthew Stafford is playing arguably the best football of his career.
Well, I don't want to hear that the Rams are a tier above the Eagles when the Rams lost to the Eagles and then beat a bunch of bad teams.
The Rams lost in Philly in a game that they were dominating, and Philly had the fumble recoveries and a comeback, and they blocked a kick to win. The Rams should have won that football game. And it just because one team beats another doesn't necessarily mean that they're on the same tiers.
I understand that, and I'm not saying that head-to-head is the only thing that matters. The Rams have beaten the Eagles, or the Eagles beat the Rams beat the Colts. But it's difficult, even though the Rams have looked very good doing it. They don't have a win like Detroit did, where they blew up Buffalo. They beat the Lamar Jackson-less Ravens, which was nice. They lost to the 49ers in overtime and then beat them this week. They beat the Jaguars. They beat the Saints. Look, if the Rams are able to get it done against Seattle and Tampa and look good doing it, I will change my mind. But the Rams have not actually shown us as much as you think this season.
I mean, Ziggy, the word you just said was consistency, and the Rams have been as consistent as any team. They've been really good all year. They lost the Niners because they fumbled on the 1 yard line. They lost the Eagles because they had a kick blocked on the last play of the game. Like the Rams easily could be 9-0. Now, yes, they could have lost to the Colts if A.D. Mitchell runs into the end zone. But I think we all agree the Colts are a good team. Like the Rams, Stafford has been awesome consistently. I think he's
the best quarterback in the NFL this year.
Yeah, they've got the MVP on their team right now. They've got arguably the best receiving duo in football, and they have a great pass rush. I mean, I think that to me, they're the team to beat. And I also want to show appreciation to Seattle. Like I've had enough of no one is talking about Seattle.
We've talked about Seattle. I've said they're a very good team with high level efficiency.
Sure, but most people, though, at this point in time, it's still like, oh, cute Sam Darnold team. Sam Darnold, guys, is 22-5 over the last 2 years in the regular season. 22-5. And you have to, I think I said this on the other show, but you have to imagine he's sitting back like, oh my gosh, 22-5 and probably not even going to win a division either year with the Lions last season and the Rams right now. But the Seattle defense flies around. Mike McDonald's as good as it gets as far as defensive coaches in the league. And offensively, we were concerned that the O-line would be terrible and Darnold would make a ton of mistakes, and he makes a couple per game. But mostly he's responded just fantastic. And Jackson Smith and Jigba has been unstoppable. Kenneth Walker's healthy. Him and Charbonnet are a great 1-2 punch. I think across the board, Seattle is a really complete football team that is a tier 1 contender in the NFC. And we've said it a million times, the reason you'd bump them to tier 2 is because you think Sam Darnold might make one massive mistake or have a game like he did against the Rams or Lions. And I understand that fear, But right now, he's just played really well for a really long time, and I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt.
Here's my concern with Seattle. It's actually not the Sam Darnold meltdown, which very well may happen, but I don't want to predict that. The way Seattle has won their games is exceptionally high efficiency from Sam Darnold, throwing somewhere between 15 to 25 passes a game. He did a great job against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when he had to throw, I think, 34 or 35 passes and lit them up for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. They didn't win that game. I'm not holding that against Sam Darnold, but the thing that holds me back from saying they're a tier 1 contender is we know the Rams, if it gets into a shootout, Matthew Stafford can play great football, throwing the ball 35 or 40 times. The Seahawks and Sam Darnold, you can even go back to his time with Minnesota. That has not been the formula for success with Sam. And to win in the NFC, when you're going to have to play some of the best offenses in football, you will have to play Detroit. You will have to play LA. You may have to play the Eagles, who I would not describe them as a high drop back offense, but you have to be efficient all game to beat them unless they play like they did last night. I need to see a little bit more from Sam Darnold on that front. Now, again, right, going to LA, he's going to have to prove it this week. Playing the Colts at home, they're going to have to prove it. And he very well may. I'm not ruling it out. This is why I think they're at the top of tier 2. But that's my concern. Can they win games when Sam Darnold has to produce big time, not just in efficiency, but in volume?
Does a win over the Rams this week catapult them into tier 1 for you?
If they beat the Rams in a shootout, I'm putting them in tier 1.
Okay. I think that's fair too. I think I completely understand someone having them at the top of tier 2.
Then Sam Darnold will have done it twice. I know they didn't beat the Bucs, but that was not a Sam Darnold problem. That was the defense gave up 38 points to the Buccaneers problem. If he does it twice this season.
Except he has the turnover at the end.
Yes,
that was a
turnover, but he threw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Totally agree. But the turnover was
where one turnover costs you the game when you have 35 points. That's not your quarterback's fault.
It's the game itself is you can't pin it on Darnold, but he threw an interception in their own territory with a tie game and a minute left, and they lost because of it. So that yes, it's not you can't put the whole thing on Darnold, but you cannot throw that interception. You can't. I mean, if you're in if it's a playoff game, you're out. Boom, done. And that's, whether you like it or not, the narrative is Darnold couldn't do it. Even though he did it, 3 minutes before, driving them down the field to take the lead.
Yeah, but that's just bad analysis. So that's not how I'm going to think about the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, it's bad analysis, but there is truth, and he can't throw that pick. You can't throw the game-losing interception with a minute left. I mean, period. Even if it's not in totality on him. But to answer the question, the Lions, the team to beat, Dan Campbell.
No, I say yes.
Yeah, Dan Campbell takes over play calling. They have the most yards they've had all season, most rushing yards they've had all season. Jamison Williams, the best he's played all season. Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe his best game. There's also the Tampa Bay game. He was fantastic as well. But I'd go Rams right now. Rams, Lions, Seahawks would be my order of operations in the NFC. There we go, Ziggy. Pretty efficient show, I'd say, for the most part.
Or like Sam Darnold.
Yeah, we're like Sam Darnold. Extremely efficient, and in the big moments, we fall apart. Good for one clunker in a big moment. So we appreciate everyone for tuning in. We'll be back with Andy Herman. We're recording that this afternoon. That'll come out tomorrow morning. And then we'll have the prediction show on Thursday. And I think Friday, we're going to try and do some previews for some of the big matchups this week in the NFC North. So across the board,
you might get the Paul Farrington show every day this week.
Yeah, I don't know how. The schedule's going to be a little wonky. We're trying to ramp it up here. You got 2 months left of the season, basically, or 2.5 months of the season. We're going to try or at least of our season, we're going to try and do the best that we can to pump out content. So glad everyone could tune in. Hope you have a great Tuesday, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.